The Light of the Banyan Tree. Once upon a time in a small village, there lived an old woman named Abuela Rosa. She was very old, with silver hair and a face full of wrinkles, but her eyes were bright and filled with kindness. Everyone in the village loved her because she always seemed happy, even when life was hard. She lived alone in a small house near a big banyan tree. Her husband had passed away many years ago, and she had no children to take care of her. But she never complained. Every morning, she would sit under the banyan tree, smiling at everyone who passed by. People loved talking to her because her words were warm and comforting, like a soft blanket on a cold night. The villagers worked hard to make a living. Some were farmers, some were carpenters, and others sold fruits and vegetables in the market. But life was not easy. Sometimes the rains didn't come and the crops dried up. Other times people fell sick and couldn't work. Many villagers lived with worry and sadness, but Abuela Rosa's smile never faded. One day, a young woman named Carmen came to visit her. Carmen's face was full of tears and her voice trembled as she spoke. I don't know what to do, Abuela, she said. My husband Miguel has gone to the city to find work, but he hasn't sent any money. My children are hungry and I'm scared. What if something bad has happened? Abuela Rosa looked at Carmen with her gentle eyes and smiled softly. Sit down, mija, she said, patting the ground beside her. Tell me, what do you think will happen? Carmen wiped her tears with the edge of her shawl. I don't know, Abuela. I feel like everything is going wrong. What if Miguel couldn't find work? What if he forgets about us? What if we have nothing to eat? Abuela Rosa listened patiently. Then she shook her head gently. Carmen, when we fill our minds with bad thoughts, our hearts grow heavy. Everything feels worse. But when we think good thoughts, our hearts feel lighter. Sometimes good things begin to happen. Carmen looked at her doubtfully. But how can I think good thoughts when everything around me is so bad? Abuela Rosa smiled again. Let me tell you a story, she began. Once there was a poor man named Juan. He had no food, no money, and no family. One day he sat by the river crying. An old woman passed by, saw him, and stopped. She asked, Why are you crying, my son? Juan said, I have nothing. How can I ever be happy? The old woman smiled. You have the river, which flows endlessly. You have the trees, which give shade and fruit. You have the sun, which warms you every day. Look around you. There is beauty and life is everywhere. If you only think about what you don't have, you will always be sad. But if you think about what you do have, you will find peace. Juan listened carefully. He stopped crying and began to notice the river, the trees, and the bright sun. Slowly he started to feel better. From that day, he worked hard and his life began to change. Abuela Rosa looked at Carmen. You see, mija, Juan's life didn't change because of magic. It changed because he changed the way he thought. When we think positive thoughts, we find strength to face our problems. When we think only about what's wrong, we feel weak and hopeless. Carmen listened carefully. Will my thinking really make a difference? Abuela Rosa nodded. Yes, mija. If you wake up every morning and say, Today will be a good day, you will find strength to care for your children. You'll face whatever comes your way. But if you keep thinking about what might go wrong, you'll feel sad and unable to act. Carmen wiped her tears and nodded slowly. I understand, Abuela. I will try to think good thoughts from now on. Abuela Rosa smiled warmly. That is the first step, mija. From that day, Carmen followed Abuela Rosa's advice. Every morning she told herself, today will be a good day. She worked hard, cared for her children, and waited for Miguel with hope in her heart. A few weeks later, she received a letter from Miguel. He had found a job in the city and was sending money home. Carmen's eyes filled with tears of joy. She ran to Abuela Rosa's house to share the news. Abuela Rosa smiled. You see, mija, when we think positively, we invite good things into our lives. Problems will always come, but if we face them with a hopeful heart, we can overcome them. Soon Abuela Rosa's wisdom spread across the village. Many people came to her with their troubles. She always gave the same advice. Think good thoughts and good things will follow. The villagers began to see the power of her words. Their lives slowly became brighter. They loved and respected her even more for the hope and happiness she brought into their lives. Our thoughts have incredible power. When we focus on the good, we find strength, hope, and solutions to our problems. Life is not always easy, but with a positive attitude, we can face challenges and invite happiness into our hearts. Always remember, a hopeful heart is a strong heart. This lesson applies to everyone. No matter how dark the situation may seem, a hopeful and grateful heart can create light. By choosing to think good thoughts and embrace hope, we open ourselves to new possibilities. We find peace within and inspire others to do the same.